All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're listening in from today. I am Marcus Belvin, Staff Outbound Product Manager here at ServiceNow. And today, my colleague Doug and I will share our latest AIOps capabilities, including a demo of Health Log Analytics and how to activate it in your ITOM AIOps environment. But before we dive into the content, I want to point out that this session may contain forward-looking statements. So please be aware that release schedules or features may change. Additionally, here are some housekeeping items to be aware of. We have scheduled time at the end of this session for Q&A. So please use the Q&A feature, not the chat feature, at the bottom of the screen to enter your questions during this session. This presentation is being recorded and will be shared on the ServiceNow community. And finally, we would really appreciate your participation in filling out the short survey at the end of this session. So let's get started. For those that may be new to the AI ops space, AI ops is a combination of AI and data science that helps IT departments improve their operations with automation. It uses machine learning and natural language processing against big data and other AI techniques to observe your IT environment, engage where necessary to address issues that arise, and act on those issues that surface. And here at ServiceNow, we launched a set of generative AI tools such as Now Assist for ITOM to improve the efficiency of and benefits for IT operators. The way we tackle AI operations involves a continuum consisting of 4 key stages. It begins with ingesting the data from wherever it may reside into our AIOps solutions on the Now platform. That followed by enriching the ingested data and grouping it together for ease and accurate analysis, culminating with a response, because there's no need to go through all the previous effort to identify an issue if you are not able to resolve it. Let's look at how we continue to enhance our solutions to make operating in these stages more efficient. Starting with the ingest stage, we introduced the integrations launchpad to consolidate all of the integrations options into a simple, modern user interface. Guided setup enables you to establish streaming quickly and view the configured integrations and their status in a centralized view, further empowering you to understand their performance and possible opportunities to improve them. And the ability to take action on alerts stemming from the ingested information has been enhanced as well. Now you can enrich alerts with business context in fields and tags, as well as group alerts, so your first view of them already takes into account similar characteristics, like tags, fields, configuration items, and more. And we didn't disregard the final continuum stage of respond with our updates. You can easily set up automated responses for escalated actions with an intuitive user interface. You can also map alerts with incidents and enable third-party systems for notifications and remediation using outbound webhooks. And as an example of how we are continuing to simplify the overall experience and help improve the time to resolve issues, take a look at our new Service Operations Express List capability. This capability allows SMEs and ops teams to quickly respond to actionable alerts without leaving the list view. Teams can see the full impact of an issue and all related alerts and act on them within the same space. And as I mentioned earlier, we introduced more Gen AI capability with Now Assist for ITOM by providing alert analysis. It enables operators to select an alert, choose Analyze for alert analysis by Now Assist, and read its summarized issue along with a probable cause within the generated Now Assist result. This improves the operator experience, provides alerts enriched with CMDB data, which offers more context, all in an effort to reduce mean time to resolution. So now that we've covered updates to a number of recently launched enhancements, let's look at a next generation AIOps tool we just launched. Service Reliability Management is a tool designed to empower distributed teams. You can create self-service teams with defined on-call schedules and escalation policies for issues that arise, enable teams to register services and act on alerts, and manage service level indicators, service level objectives, and error budgets. Finally, we've unified the experience with multiple ITOM personas. With the new AIOps dashboard, users can easily navigate within Service Operations Workspace, customize the dashboard to show the charts and insights you need to make the best decisions, all while ensuring your views are leveraging the latest environment data in real time. So let's pause here and take a look at some of what you are experiencing in your environments with this first poll question. So, how do you use logs in your organization or daily work? Some of the answers we're proposing are use them for debugging, incident response, root cause analysis, audits, or customer support. While I give a moment for you to submit your responses, I want to remind you that if you have any questions during this webinar, feel free to enter them in the QA feature at the bottom of this webinar screen and not the chat mechanism. And again, when we wrap up this webinar, you'll have a chance to complete a survey. We really would appreciate your feedback. Let's give a few more seconds here for those to submit the responses to this question. See, the answers are still coming in quickly. Right now, it looks like it's a near tie for the lead between debugging and root cause analysis. All right, 3, 2, 1. Looks like the responses have stopped. So in the end, root cause analysis took the lead. About 77% of the respondents said that's mainly what they use their logs for. Second was debugging, followed closely by, I'd say, a tie for third with incident response and audits. All right. Thank you for submitting that insight. I briefly shared those results with those, but we will also make that available after the end of this webinar as well.
Excellent.
All right. And before we transition over, Doug, make sure I can get off this poll slide. There we go. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce my colleague, Doug, who's going to go into more detail about health log analytics. Thanks, Doug. It's over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate that introduction. My name is Doug Odegaard. I'm a product innovation architect. I work with a group of people inside of our product organization on health log analytics and other things that are all things AIOps. And so today, the focus now is to take you a little bit deeper into health log analytics itself. So what I'm going to do is just to set the stage, I'm going to offer some slides just to give you graphics. Sometimes I like to say to people, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Some people are graphic learners. Some people, get it from text, and some people get it from demos. So toward the end of this, we will be going into the product and looking around at a few things. And then at the end of this presentation, we'll have time for questions. So this slide here is specifically focusing in on really where does HLA fit, okay? Throughout this conversation, I'll be referring to it as HLA or health log analytics. The focus is to basically take your logs and be able to bring them through a specific prediction area and make it part of the AIOps experience. Now, as you see in this slide, you'll notice in event management, we've really got that Venn diagram of proactive AIOps and predictive AIOps. And that's really where we're going to be focusing today. This slide specifically talks about where can you bring in data from? And throughout this, I'll be referring to data sources, data inputs, and so forth. The thing about health log analytics is you can gain access to many different sources, and I'll be showing you a specific list as we get to a particular part of this presentation. But the focus is to bring those logs into the platform. And HLA itself, its mechanism, will help parse and filter those logs, understand them, and move toward the AI part of the experience. Now, the thing about HLA, and I'll reiterate this throughout, is that you are not setting up alerts to decide, I am going to pay attention to this. Instead, you are simply feeding the logs into the system, and then it is finding the patterns. It is predicting the issues, which personally I find very, very helpful because asking people to define those alerts, you have to think of every possible permutation that could happen. The three different types of areas that HLA really focuses in on is first, anomaly deviations, which is where things are above or below an expected pattern. Um, the net new anomaly, which means that's the first time it's ever been seen. So especially when you start with HLA, you'll be feeding in your logs and you may see some things that like, gosh, I didn't know that happened. And then another one is we call an anti-pattern anomaly, where it expected something and then it didn't happen. So those are some different types of ways that predictions can be made. Now, a lot of times when people begin using HLA, it's important to talk about the personas that are part of your environment. And so that's the purpose of this slide that I wanted to talk through with you. But the first thing, if you look on the left-hand side, I have written there applications, servers, databases, network gear, machinery, critical assets, etc. My focus there is that Health Log Analytics is going to take data, log data, and it is going to utilize either a mid server or other mechanism to get that information into Health Log Analytics. And it's going to interact with the CMDB and it will create predicted alerts. Now, three different types of people use your operation may not have L1 through L3. But in this case, Jack is an example of a NOC in a network operations center or L1 person. And that person can look at those alerts using the service operations workspace, which I'll show you in a little bit. And they can follow runbooks or they can escalate based on impact or they can resolve them. But let's pretend that they don't exactly know what to do. So they pass it off to Sarah, who's an SRE or L2. And Sarah can actually look at this more deeply, maybe provide root cause analysis, or provide what we call machine language feedback, which I'll show you in a little while. And maybe Sarah's like, you know what? I'm not exactly sure. So we're going to escalate that. We're going to move it up to infrastructure or the app dev people, which may be an L3. And so that person could automate, they could make it a bug, or they could actually just simply provide that feedback and move it back to L2. My point by this slide is I like to be able to help people understand where does health log analytics actually sit within the users of my system. And especially as we help you implement the software, we really like to remind people, let's discuss who is actually going to be seeing these predicted alerts. Now, HLA understands text to define what's normal. So as we know, logs are, they're basically textual data that comes in. And you'll see that, they're often broken up into, as this is showing, a timestamp, a severity, and then the inner message, which is the most interesting part of the logs. And in this particular case, this log, HLA actually identified a pattern inside of it. It was able to see user Joe failed to log in or user Dan failed to log in. So what does this mean? As we move through, HLA is really looking for those patterns. It is identifying anomalies within those. And it understands the text to define what's normal and what's not. And the graph that's here illustrates where gosh, HLA actually started predicting this way before it became a really big problem toward the right-hand side of the graph. And so that's the reason why I actually, I've been involved in observability for many years. And when I began using HLA, I was really excited because as an observability practitioner, I didn't actually explicitly say, look for this. It's actually, it is actually reading that and providing it for me. This is an example of a screen, and I will actually, during the demonstration, show more of this. But this is what an alert can actually look like. And you'll see here, this is the anomaly. And it's nice because it shows it graphically. It explains a little bit about the events. And if you also have our Now Assist, there is also an Analyze button within it that can also provide even more information. Now, just to move into a different section here, what I want to do is I want to help you as a user or someone who's a decision maker understand a little bit about the data setup cycle. What does it take to actually set up HLA in order to operate? And so what I've done is I've created really a kind of a six-step cycle. And it's really an iterative cycle. One could almost think it's like an agile agile circle where as you mature with the HLA product, you'll make a decision to monitor something, and then you'll go through a series of steps in order to move forward. So the first step is what I call decision. And so I could call it discovery, but here in the ServiceNow world, discovery means many things to many people. But really, it's making a decision. Decide which log or type or use case that you'd like to use to build and discover log sources. And today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, we have a new data input out there called the Glide syslog, and I will give you an example of that. Or it could be that you have a particular system that's really challenging to diagnose, or it's something where you're always going to the logs, and that's usually where you find things. So as you begin the HLA journey, it's important to make a decision. What's going to be the easiest way to get into the product and also to understand it and see the impact for users? Now, when it comes to actually moving through and deciding what data inputs that will be used, this is actually a list of the current data inputs that we have. And you may have seen that in that graphic, initial graphic, where it talked about our syslog and different places to be able to get that from. But you'll notice here, we've got S3, we've got file beats that are accessing things on Linux and Windows systems. Many of you might have your logs sent to Splunk. That's a very popular one. You may have an Elasticsearch instance. Or maybe it's TCP or UDP that you would be able to easily get those raw events sent. Or maybe you have Kafka. You have a topic, you could send those in, or maybe REST API. Many of you have agent client collectors that are out there that are already distributed. And so you can actually have them stream logs to an existing agent there. And then as you see at the end, there's one called Glide syslog retriever. And this is a new one that we have released, and we will find out and make sure to put in the chat what this specific version is that you would need to be on in order to receive that. But I'll show more of that here in just a little bit. So the data inputs are really part of what we call the acquisition phase or acquire. And so as I actually help customers like yourselves to actually get started with HLA. So one of the things that I oftentimes tell people is to build at least one dedicated mid server. And my recommendation tends to be more around 16 gigabytes of RAM and increase the JVM to about 12 to 16. You want to give it enough oxygen in order to still operate. But the reason for that is because depending upon your log sources, it may actually be, a healthy pipe or fire hose of data that's coming through that. So we want to make sure that we're not starting with something that's a little bit starved. What you want to do is develop a plan to locate, transport, and ingest those logs. Now, as I put in red, this can often be the most arduous part of the project. The only reason I say that is because, as I'm sure you know, maybe from other projects, you get all excited and you're like, "Hey, I'm going to get these logs in, and we're gonna get this product going." And then for some reason, it doesn't quite get through. And oh no, we have network ports or we have ACLs that need to be opened. And sometimes you need to go to your security group or someone else in order to get that accomplished. So those need to be requested, early on. Keep that as part of your plan because the quick success that I've seen with some customers is if they keep that in mind, it really helps to maintain the momentum of the project. So then the next part is configure. And so once we have data coming into the system, HLA has many different mechanisms that will then take a look at the data and break those into what we call source types and source type structures. And some manual mapping or adjustment may be necessary. Now, this is just a picture that I wanted to show you. Um, just to dive just a little bit deeper into it, when we define those data inputs, so for instance, we might be getting data from Splunk, or we might be getting data from an ACC agent on a Windows server. We have the opportunity to do one particular thing before it heads into your ServiceNow instance into HLA. There is an optional thing called a preprocessor. And the purpose of that could serve to filter, obfuscate, adjust, drop data, and so forth that you don't want to pass in. That is not necessary to use, but it's an optional thing that's part of our data inputs. Now, once the data begins to be sent in, what happens is a source type structure is created. And that source type structure is going to help the system be able to understand what is the data, what is a timestamp, what is a message, what is the severity. And that by performing that, and most of the time that comes in and it's very automatic. Um, or there may be pre-installed source type structures that it adapts to. And what happens is that really offers the opportunity for for um, for the mapping to occur so that it comes in and the engine makes the best decisions. Now, this is a screenshot of we have some particular mapping scripts or the ability to actually do script against your logs if they are very unique or you would like to do something special with them. And so inside of our product, we have the ability to utilize JavaScript in order to do this. And during implementation, again, we really start with the default mapping script is usually there. It's fairly blank. But then there are some other ones that are provided, or we as a team can also assist you with some of those pieces. Now, one of the things that once you actually get that data and it is beginning to churn into your system, we have something called a log viewer. And this is a great place to be able to check and look at your data. And I will be showing you this during the demonstration, but this is a great check. Now, the thing about the log viewer, and this is something overall with HLA that I want to make sure you understand, is that health log analytics is meant to be essentially a predictive alert engine. That is its purpose. And then what happens is logs are then pushed over to an internal Elasticsearch instance inside your ServiceNow instance. And those are kept for a default of 3 days. So think of it this way, that these logs, this is not necessarily a log storage engine. So you're not actually bringing this in and keeping it for a long period of time. The purpose is this is for operational use. And so inside the log viewer, it's really nice because you can take a look at these logs uh, very near to your alerts and be able to understand what's going on. Now, once these the log data has been coming into your system and they are mapped, then what happens is the system begins to learn your data. Now, this is what I think of as this is really where the machine learning magic happens. And it matters on the amount of data, the type of data, the amount of maybe anomalies coming in. So the alerts that are generated may start to happen immediately, or they may take like up to a week for really comprehensive coverage of knowing, gosh, this happened today. And then this same thing happens tomorrow at the exact same time. And so the actual being able to really reflect on the history may take a little time, but you can actually get pretty immediate benefit out of it. Once you begin getting your logs in the system, let it cook overnight, and you'll begin to see alerts coming out of the system. Now, once those alerts begin to come in, it's important to validate, and that's step 5 that I like to think of. The validation process gives the operators or people, as I mentioned, the L1, maybe the L2 is going to be responsible for validating. When you initially start the system, you may have a little bit more alert traffic than you expect. And it's not meant to create a lot of noise, but it's also meant to raise the things that are happening. And then you as a user can actually mark it as significant, meaning you look at it and you're like, yeah, this definitely is something that needs to be reviewed. Or you could actually mute it, meaning I understand that, but that's something that is that we understand, and you can actually mute that. So there is a feedback mechanism that is able to be used as you learn and as you work with the system. You'll also notice there's a quick incident and a create KB article as well. So within the system, you have the opportunity to do those. Once the validation really is, and I almost think of validate as not necessarily a step, but it's part of the process. So as those come in, your validation may continue. But really, once that validation has, step has been occurred, then you make a decision of the alerts and how they will be shown to users. So in a new HLA installation, you may want to create a view that specifically has those alerts that are defined and assigned to a particular person if you have any concerns about added noise. But really, this is at this point, it's kind of a rinse and repeat is a phrase that I like to say to people. So this that kind of ends the data setup cycle. Where we're going to be going next is I'd like to do this small poll here, and then I'll show you this. You can rather than put it into chat, I'll have you put it into the tool. And then after that, we are going to go into the demonstration. So what I'm curious of is how do your teams work alerts? A lot of times when we are helping customers implement, they may use different things in their product. So one of them may be Express List in Service Operations Workspace. You're already using that. Maybe you've used more of the classic alerts list. Maybe you use incidents via automation. I've had some customers that are using cases, or we currently don't use or work alerts. I'm very curious of your answers on this. So hang tight. I'm going to launch this. There we go. And if you can, we'll just take about 15, 20 seconds, get a chance to hear about it. All right. Looks like we're getting quite across the board here, which is great. This is excellent feedback to be able to hear this. So, all right. Okay, it looks like most people have answered here. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results that we see. Okay, so the results that I see here is it's very interesting to see this. Express list in service operations workspace, 31%. That's awesome. I'm really glad to see that that is being used by some customers. Again, if you've not gotten into that yet, that's perfectly fine. Our team and others may be able to provide you some education on that. It is a really excellent piece of our AIOps experience. It's recently been released and it has some really good stuff. I'll show you that in the demo. It looks like alerts list is about 25%. Looks like incidents is kind of the major thing, and that makes sense. If alerts are then promoted to incidents, cases, yep, few people here with that, and then some other people we currently don't use or work alerts, and that's fine. So, and many people on their journey here. So awesome. Thank you very much for your feedback on that. That really helps. Okay. So we are going to shift gears just a little bit. I am going to, Marcus, if you don't mind just providing me a little bit of feedback here in a moment. I want to make sure everyone is able to see my screen. I should be showing a Chrome browser. Marcus, does that appear okay to you and others?
It does, and I did stop share on the PowerPoint. So,
We did. Okay,
yep.
awesome.
So
Okay.
I think we're good to go.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right. So what we're going to do now is take about 10 minutes, and I'm going to take you through some of the product. And I want to show you the areas of health log analytics. I want to show you areas that are part of the setup. I want to show you also just live, I always love seeing slides, but I really enjoy seeing a live experience and see how this interacts. Okay. So the first thing I want to show to you is, where do you find health log analytics? So this is installed as a plugin. So there is, once your plugin has been installed from the store, and that is something that I would encourage you, if you are interested in this, please talk to your account team. If you're interested in doing a proof of value, proof of concept, or if you are already licensed for the product and you want to go to production or you want to get this into a sub-prod, please work with your account team, and they can work with us as well to help you through this process. But here in the menu, if we go to all, and I just type in health log analytics, it will appear in the menu. And so I just want to walk you through this real quick, just as a very quick example. You'll notice that you can get to the log viewer. There is a dashboard that I'll show you. And then the data inputs that we spoke of are found here. And also the source type structures that we spoke of are also here as well. So this is a place where you can actually go in and work on setting up the system. I'll show a few of those as well. And then there's some other information that's part of the system. Okay. So the most of it is really going to be like this log viewer. So let's take a look at that for a second. I'm going to flip over to this other tab here. This is a log viewer that we have within one of our example systems. And so as the logs are actually shown within the system, this is, again, the log viewer where you are able to take a look at and query for different logs. Now you'll notice here in this particular example, there's a lot of different types. So there's a pet clinic implementation. If we go down here, there's an SAP area. And then there's also what we call syslog, or excuse me, glide syslog, sorry. And so what this does is this gives you the ability to make a decision on what it is that you're interested in looking at. So I can choose a particular type. There's a range, so I can actually take a look at, let's say, the last 4 hours. I hit search, and what it'll do is it'll go out and find the actual logs. Now you'll notice there's a distribution graph on top, which is really nice to be able to see. I always like to tell people the power is in the hover. So hover over things, you'll get things like counts and so forth. And then you can come down and actually take a look at these. And also, again, power in the hover. If you hover over a particular field and you want to see more about it, then you can hover and actually take a look at the data that's within this. You can refine it. There are filters that are within these, so you can actually go in and actually filter based on the various pieces. So this is just one part of it, which is the log viewer. Now, the heart and soul of health log analytics, the end product of it, is creating these alerts. Okay, so this is what we call, and let me make sure everyone understands how to get to this, is in what we call service operations workspace. And Marcus alluded to this in the beginning of the presentation. Service operations workspace, when you click on that, it will bring you to this portion. Okay, so there's a lot of choices here on the left-hand side. Express list is where we are. You will notice within here that this source column, in this particular case, says log analytics. Now, some of you may be on an even newer uh, implementation or patch, and you may see a little log icon here. So that's something I noticed recently. Now, another area you can do is you can come into source and actually say, I want to only see the log analytics ones. And so by doing that, you're actually filtering. Also, your view right here is your time picker to be able to do that. Now, what you can do is actually come into these and click on the row, and you're able to actually see the information over on the right-hand side. Okay. Now, these are all log analytics types alerts. And if I click into this one and I actually want to look at it, this brings up the more detailed view of it. And so what you'll see inside is you'll see this box. And I showed you this in a screenshot earlier where you could actually see the anomaly. And so in this particular case, it says this low volume log appears more frequently. It's typically inactive. Okay. Now, if you also have Now Assist as part of your system, what this does is this is doing some generative AI. So let's pretend, if you recall, we were talking about L1, L2, L3s. Maybe your L1 person doesn't quite know a lot about the specifics about this system. And so what this will do is this actually will provide a little bit more information. It will attempt to make sense to them of what is happening. Okay, so inside of this, inside of a health log analytics alert, this anomaly box is very important. And again, just remember power is in the hover, that you just hover over things and you're able to take a look at that. Now, in addition, if you take a look down below, there is information, from a cause standpoint, where you're actually able to see some meaningful log properties, where it actually is able to show you, gosh, where is this actually coming from? So this particular alert, I want to kind of draw back for a second. This alert has been created because log data was coming in, textual log data that was mapped accordingly into particular properties. Or actually, it was mapped into particular things, which in the case, it would probably be the message. And then the actual context within that message was able to be gleaned into meaningful properties. So it's really, really nice. As again, I can't say this enough. As an observability practitioner, previously to beginning to work for ServiceNow, a lot of the time I was spending a great deal of time saying, what are we going to alert on? And our observability team was spending a lot of time thinking about that. In this particular case, what it's doing is it's actually surfacing things without that definition. It's bringing it in. Now, the HLA product also, nice, and this is a great feature of it, is that it's also going to try to bring in surrounding logs. So that's part of this is the goal is to be able to actually bring in information closer to you. So you and or the people that are part of your team are able to actually take a look at the data. Also, if there is, I don't believe we have any noted here, but if there were playbooks that could be done on it, those playbooks could be done within here. So the goal is of AIOps in general, with HLA involved in this particular type of alert, we're basically bringing together many of the different tools that are part of it and even able to say, what CIs were actually part of this, what were the impacted services, etc. So the goal is really to try to bring that information together into this area. Also, it's a work pad. So it's actually a live work pad where you can actually do your work. You can place comments in here and so forth. So all of this really stems from the alerts that are coming into service operations workspace into the Express list. It's a great place to be able to work from. Um, Also, I had mentioned to you that maybe in the beginning of your system, you wanted to just have log analytics and save that as a particular filter. So maybe your L1s, maybe in the first, say, 2 weeks of the implementation, maybe what you do is you have those seen by an L2 or something. There is flexibility here. So please know, and this is something again, as a practitioner, I'm always sensitive to noise. So how much noise are we allowed and so forth? Or how much noise do we want actually within there? Now, and I'm just keeping respectful of time here. I want to make sure we have time for questions. I did want to show you real quick inside of here. So if we look at health log analytics, you'll notice if we go into data inputs, so where I'm actually at, and actually I'll show this one right here. This is a different instance that I have. For instance, right here, there was that glide syslogs. Okay. Now that particular one, and I want to encourage you as a party who may not be using HLA right away, this streaming logs from glide syslog table is a really, really good way to get into HLA. It is a very low barrier of entry. It gives you as a ServiceNow administrator or some of your team the ability to feed that log data into our system and essentially use it to proactively have it monitor your ServiceNow instance. Um, I'm sure some of you have gone in and tried to search that syslog table by hand. It's an arduous experience. And so it's really nice because, as I mentioned before, you can actually then, once those are filled in, so that particular, and I'll show you how to do it here in a moment. Once that's fed in, you use the log viewer to do it. You can actually see it, and it's actually creating alerts for you so that you may actually see things that you may not have known were happening, or you see things that are opportunities for improvement. And so when you do this, it's actually very, very simple. And it does say it exists. There's only one that can be configured, but I'll just show you. You simply give it a name. You fill out a few fields, and then it actually can be created. And I'll just go back here real quick to mine. This is the syslogs that I set up. What I did do was I went in and made sure that I was only bringing in error fatal information and warning. Do you have to do that? No. I was just trying to reduce noise a little bit. Didn't think I needed the debug or trace logs in there. So again, when you're doing this, you can set some parameters to it. Also within here, I just want to point out to you, just in case there are some, for instance, some Splunk users in the crowd. What we do is every single one of our data inputs has unique screens. So if you have, for instance, some Splunk data that you're interested in getting in, then we help you through the use of these dare I call them wizards? I'm showing my age here, but it basically is a step through, and it helps you with the outputs.conf, the props.conf, and transforms.conf data that would be put into those and how it would be received. So these are just examples. And as I said, when we click new for a data input, we actually then are able to be taken to the steps that would be involved in getting the data into the system. And then lastly, I just wanted to show you real quick what we call those source type structures, just so that you can understand a little bit more about those. So what source type structures are is it's really giving you either pre-made, or these can develop themselves from this the data that's flowing in. And you'll notice there was something there called learning mode. So as it comes in, there's an auto extraction that can occur. And you'll see here, this is actually the glide syslog stuff. And these are actual log records coming in. And down below, there is that custom JS function. I was showing you that where you can actually do manipulations. And lastly, the nice part is that in this case, it creates the mapping for you. Or if this is something that requires some additional mapping, or it's a custom log or something, you have the ability to come in here and affect how is it actually going to be labeled? How is it going to be classified as far as can something, could table name be attributed for some automatic root cause analysis and so forth. And this webinar isn't meant to take you into the depths on this per se. I'll provide you some resources to be able to learn more about some of these things. So, all right. I think I'm going to end the demo here. Marcus, if you don't mind sharing again the slides, and we'll finish those out. Awesome. Thank you so much. So from here, how do you proceed? So for instance, just always remember that in the ServiceNow ecosystem, we have something called ServiceNow Impact, the Impact community. Some of you may already have Impact teams involved in your accounts. You may also have learning credits within your Now Learning, and we're going to provide some information, links to that. And then expert services. We also have the ability to help you with things and get you connected with resources like ourselves as we move through. So these are some HLA specific resources, and I believe someone's going to be putting this into the chat for you, but I just real quick wanted to tell you there's a 2-hour learning path, and it's actually made up of 3 classes. One of them is even shorter. It's a technical overview. I encourage you to take a look at that. There are 3 blogs here that have been created. There's a quick start guide for HLA. There's a FAQ for some questions that may be asked. And then the start monitoring your ServiceNow instance with predictive AIOps. Charlie Elite is one of the members of my team. He and I work together on helping customers with HLA. That blog is actually a great way to get into using those glide syslogs. And then the big thing is, if you are interested in getting HLA in your instance or doing a proof of value or getting it to production, speak to your account team. They're going to be the best ones to get involved with this, get engaged, and then they are able to connect with us as support mechanisms and tools to help you as well. So that gets us to our last poll, and then we'll get into questions. How do you prefer to learn about products like HLA? And I ask this because we'd like to know. Is your account team the best place? Do you like to take online self-paced learning? Do you like to join workshops like this? Do you like the community? Or do you just kind of do internet searches on the topics? So let me launch this poll. This will be our last one, and then we will get into questions and answers. So if you could just provide some feedback on that, that would be great. I personally like the self-paced courses. It's really nice. I have several of them right now that I need to save some time to learn out more on particular parts of our tool that aren't under my area of expertise. So this is great. Looks like a lot of you do ServiceNow Learning, so that's great. Okay, this is wonderful. Okay, I think I'm going to end the poll and just kind of show you the results here real quick. Looks like talking to your account team probably is part of life anyway. But the ServiceNow Learning and the workshops, it looks like has good interest there. So we will continue to provide information, Marcus, myself, our team, and we will continue to bring these types of events to you. So